What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So it's safe to say that the Canucks might be undergoing massive changes relatively soon, considering they've been on such a skid on the ice. Off the ice, we have this Miller and Pettersson beef. Jim Rutherford basically confirmed that in an interview and said that there's no good solution to keep this core together at this point. So I decided to cook up some hypotheticals on their four core pieces, being Quinn Hughes, Elias Pettersson, JT Miller, and Brock Boeser. Thatcher Demko, last year core piece, now with his knee injuries, and even at $5 million, not really a core piece. I'm not sure any team is going to touch that at this point until he bounces back, as well as Philip Hronek is in a first year of an 8-year deal. Not sure that he's going to get traded. But yeah, we're going to go through this right now. I understand that I don't think Quinn Hughes is going to get traded this season, but why not do some hypotheticals? And when looking at the potential packages that these guys can yield, Quinn Hughes's would be insane. He's going to get one of the biggest packages. That's kind of sus. One of the biggest packages in NHL history in terms of good roster player, good prospect, first round pick, something like that. Brock Boeser is going to get a decent amount as well, considering he's an expiring unrestricted free agent. If you trade him, you're probably retaining first 50%. So that's going to be a first round pick plus, most likely. Pettersson and Miller are interesting, though. Some people might think that what I'm sending the other way is not going to be that impressive for Pettersson or Miller. But Pettersson is playing like a $7 million guy right now and makes $11.6 million the next 7 seasons. JT Miller is playing like a $7 million guy and is 32 years old and has 5 more seasons after this at $8 million. So I don't expect, in reports coming out, that the Pettersson and Miller returns aren't going to be that crazy. So just keep that in mind. Again, very good players in their own right, but when considering the contract and age, don't get your hopes up if you're a Vancouver Canucks fan thinking that you're going to get equal value in younger guys and picks and prospects. It's not going to quite be that. But yeah, we're going to go through it. 4 different guys, 3 different trades each. Let's not waste any time. Up first, the Ottawa Senators get Quinn Hughes. Brady Tkachuk and Quinn Hughes get reunited, playing on the U.S. national team development program together. Jake Sanderson, Shane Pinto, a 2025 first. I think that this is pretty solid value. Sanderson is locked up at 8 years, $8 million. I think we can agree that's going to be a pretty good contract, considering he's already a very solid two-way guy playing legit number 1 minutes. He's not that much younger than Quinn Hughes, but is 2 years younger. Shane Pinto's having a little bit of a down year, but still looks like he's going to be a very effective middle sixer in his career, and only 22, 23 years old. And that 2025 first, if they get Quinn Hughes, I think they would make the playoffs. But that's probably still going to be only 20th, 21st overall. I would not expect Ottawa to go on some type of deep Stanley Cup run. I think it's a pretty solid trade. Ottawa getting Quinn Hughes would obviously be a massive upgrade over Jake Sanderson. It would immediately put them as a decent threat. I think next year they would be a serious threat in the Eastern Conference. So yeah, you're getting like 75% of Quinn Hughes and Jake Sanderson, or what you can hope in a couple years Jake Sanderson can be, as well as Shane Pinto, very good piece, as well as, well, if you're trading Quinn Hughes, you're kind of going through a rebuild. So you get younger, as well as a solid first round pick for Quinn Hughes. You guys might hate that just because I tend to be very optimistic for Ottawa. Next up, Brock Boeser, hometown kid, goes back to Minnesota. Marcus Johansson for salary cap reasons. Liam Ogren, who I think does have the value of a first-round pick. He was a 2022 first-round pick and is killing it this year in the AHL. And a third-round pick. You can maybe argue, why would Minnesota do this when they can maybe just sign him in unrestricted free agency? But get ahead of it, get him locked up, sign him on some 8-year deal at $8 million, get the hometown kid back. They definitely need more forward depth, and Brock Boeser's a damn good player over the last season and a half. He's probably been a top 65 to 80 player in the entire NHL, one of the better forwards, goal-scoring forwards in the NHL. And I think for Vancouver, Liam Ogren, obviously only 20, 21 years old, and looks like he's going to turn into a very good top 6 forward. Getting that for Brock Boeser would be pretty solid work, as well as a third-round pick. Solid overall deal. The New York Islanders. This one is a little bit unrealistic, maybe, because the Islanders are not quite the contender, but they are playing better of late. Noah Dobson and Brock Nelson. This would definitely be more so of a retool for the Vancouver Canucks. Getting a guy like Dobson, balancing out their defense core, having a legit number 3 defenseman. Maybe the Islanders don't want to pay him. Maybe it's going to be a little bit of a discount for the Vancouver Canucks to scoop him up. And for Pettersson, the Islanders would finally get that high-end offensive number 1 center. Him and Bo Horvat would form a pretty damn good center duo, and the Islanders could do a little retool and maybe get back into a contention window. Not saying it would happen, but it would not shock me one bit if Lou Lamoriello goes some type of nuclear move like this. And yeah, I think Vancouver would not get significantly worse. If anything, this season down the stretch, they'd be better with Brock Nelson and Noah Dobson. Maybe you re-sign Brock Nelson on like a 4-year deal at $6.5 million, and you're a better team the next 2 to 3 years because you're more well balanced. But the Islanders badly need that top end talent. JT Miller's first trade, Babiak on the podcast actually suggested this. Palat, a net negative contract going to Vancouver, as well as Simone Nemec. So they get an elite young prospect as well as a second and a fourth to kind of help New Jersey out, make the salary cap work by getting off Andre Palat. For Vancouver, this would definitely hurt them in the short term, but again, getting that future legit number 3, maybe even number 2, maybe even it surpasses Philip Hronek. It would definitely be punting on this season and maybe even next season. But in terms of the long-term future of the Vancouver Canucks, I think this could be a pretty solid deal for the Vancouver Canucks. Next up, Luke Hughes goes to L.A., or Quinn Hughes goes to L.A. for Brant Clark, Alex Lafreniere, Gavrikov, and a 2025 first-round pick. That is a massive deal. Brant Clark got a healthy scratch last night. How are you healthy scratching him? He's a 2021 draftee. I know he's still young, but play the kid. Clearly, you don't value him like some other teams definitely would. So for Vancouver, they get a young, hopefully future franchise defenseman. Lafreniere, not quite the beast that we saw in the first 30 games of late, but still it looks like he can develop into a good second liner. Gavrikov's more for salary cap because he makes like $5.75 million. You got to make that work with Quinn Hughes and a 2025 first round pick. LA's a very good team. It's probably going to be around 23rd, 24th overall. I think it makes sense for both parties. Again, if they trade Quinn Hughes, this is going to be a pretty big blow up in terms of a rebuild. Brant Clark's 3-4 years younger than Quinn Hughes. This would be a nice reset in terms of getting one of the better U22 players in the entire NHL. And for the LA Kings, Drew Doughty's getting up there in age, still very elite, and obviously Quinn Hughes is better than Drew Doughty, but just go for it with Anze Kopitar, with Drew Doughty when they're still good. And again, even once they start to age out, if you have Quinn Hughes, Quinn Byfield keeps on playing good, Turcotte continues to develop, as well as guys like Fiala and Kempe that aren't that young, or that are decently young, they're in their late 20s, this team can be a high-level team for the next 3 years. I think that they don't have that top-end talent to be a serious contender in the Western Conference. You get Quinn Hughes, and basically at the NHL level, just lose Gavrikov and Lafreniere. You immediately become one of the best teams in the Western Conference. Pretty interesting deal. I don't know if they would trade in division Quinn Hughes, but if you're trading Quinn Hughes, again, you're rebuilding massively. So it's not like you're going to be contending with LA over the next 3 to 4 years and going to sorely regret it. You got to go with the best package if you're kind of blowing it up like this. Brock Boeser to the Detroit Red Wings. If Detroit wants to add another formidable offensive piece in their forward core, we agree that their defense core is set. Their goaltending is looking set with Sebastian Cossa and Trey Augustine. Maybe they just need one more high-end offensive forward. And although he is a little bit old, 27, going to be 28 when he signs his contract, he does fit in line with Larkin and DeBrincat, and the deal is Nate Danielson, 2023 first-round pick. I'm not a huge fan on Danielson, but I still think he has the value of about a late first-round pick. Been okay in the AHL, around half a point per game, and a second-round pick. That could be a 2026 second-round pick, 2027, so it's maybe a little bit later. But yeah, I think that this would be a good talent acquisition for Detroit that Tarasenko has not really lived up to expectations, as well as Patrick Kane, not a long-term fix or long-term staple for the Detroit Red Wings. They need to add another high-end forward, and they get this by getting Brock Boeser, and they have the salary cap considering they were able to lock up Sider and Raymond on very cheap deals. I believe they have some money coming off the books that they could re-sign Brock Boeser. Okay, next up, we got a Boston Bruins trade with the Vancouver Canucks, the 2011 rivals. Zacha, solid second-line center, as well as adding Matty Poitras, a younger player that I think can develop into a very good middle sixer over the next 2 to 3 years. Boston gets a legit number one center when he's really on, and a little bit older than guys like McAvoy, Pasta, and Swayman, but still kind of fits in that core that is a little bit old. Boston, this would definitely be a little bit of a Hail Mary trade, but they definitely need that high-end offensive guy to play with Pasternak, considering Lindholm, Zacha, Coyle clearly aren't that. They needed to do something if they want to maximize this core right now. Yes, you don't want to lose Matty Poitras, but I don't think Matty Poitras is going to turn into some absolute stud, but could be a very good piece in Vancouver. Maybe you add, like, for the Boston Bruins angle, maybe they give up a second or a third. I probably should have included in this to tip the scales a little bit. Next up, Pettersson to Utah. If Utah wants to make a big splash in terms of getting that true number one center, maybe you think that Logan Cooley is going to be that number one center. But yeah, Nick Schmaltz, Mike Kesselring, who's been a very solid second, third pair left-handed defenseman, and a second-round pick. Schmaltz only has 2 years left at $5.8 million. For Vancouver, they get a young defenseman that can play on that second pair. Schmaltz can be that second-line center for Vancouver. This is definitely more so of a retooling move than, say, a rebuilding, as well as adding a second-round pick. And yeah, for Utah, maybe him and Clayton Keller would be pretty goddamn electric, and I think that could rehab Pettersson back to being that guy that we saw in 2023 as well as the start of the 2023-2024 season when he's on. Definitely is worth $11.6 million and can be the best player on a Stanley Cup winning team. The one that you guys were probably waiting for the most, New Jersey getting Quinn Hughes, Brett Nemec in a 2025 second round pick. This is tough. I should have probably prefaced this by saying this would probably be some kind of 3-team trade because Bratt going to Vancouver, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. They definitely would flip Bratt for more assets. What you could get for Bratt, considering he has like 7 years left at $7.8 million, you could get another first, second, very good prospect or something like that. But yeah, I think in terms of the value, this makes sense. Nemec doesn't even have a spot on the team next year, although he's a very valuable prospect. New Jersey cannot be, if this slides across their table, and as much as you love Bratt, I think you go after a guy like Quinn Hughes, considering Dougie Hamilton's starting to get up there in age, isn't really a true number one. You love Luke Hughes, but you take the bona fide superstar, arguably the best defenseman in the entire NHL. This would be a blockbuster of epic proportions. And I would love to see something like that go down. Boeser deal to the Washington Capitals. Brandon Duhaime in a first-round pick, a rental, but Washington has the cap space, considering some guys come off the books, to re-sign a guy like Brock Boeser. And although Washington's top 6 is very good, it does fall off a little bit into the bottom 6, and Tom Wilson and Ovechkin are starting to get up there in age. So you lock up a guy like Brock Boeser at 8 years, $8 million. I think that would be very good for Washington to stay competitive, stay highly competitive the next 3 to 4 years. Yes, you would have guys like Ryan Leonard continue to rise up the lineup, but I think Brock Boeser is a very interesting piece for Washington. He would make them a sizable contender this year, adding a potential 40-goal guy. He was a 40-goal guy last year. Would really add some juice into the Washington Capitals for this season. Maybe it's just a rental. Maybe you don't even give him that extension, but I think he also kind of fits, again, the core of Strome, Chikrin. Those guys are all in their mid to late 20s, so he still kind of fits the vibe as well in Washington, and I think he would be a really damn good add for the Washington Capitals. Next up, Pettersson in Buffalo. This one has been highly speculated. Something around Dylan Cousins and Bowen Byram. Cousins also overpaid right now at $7.1 million. Goes back to where he's from, roughly. Whitehorse, I know it's not Vancouver, but it's the closest team to Vancouver. But Byram as well, second pair defenseman, comes in. He's playing massive minutes in Buffalo right now, but behind Quinn Hughes, he could really thrive in kind of an easier role, as well as a second-round pick for Pettersson. Pettersson in Buffalo, 1-2 punch of Tage Thompson and Pettersson down the middle would be absolutely disgusting. Buffalo severely lacks offensive creation outside of that top line, outside of Tage Thompson, because Cousins has kind of been disappointing. This would be a swap of kind of disappointing centers, and I think both teams would win to a degree with this deal. Canucks get a little bit younger. And then lastly, JT Miller to the New York Rangers for Hedel, Schneider in a second-round pick. The package that was rumored was Hedel, Lindgren in a first-round pick, so I'm taking Lindgren out, putting Schneider on there. Schneider's a solid, like, third-pair young defenseman. So the Canucks get a little bit, I don't know why if Boston gets there. That's a mistake, but that's Vancouver, obviously. Hedel could be a low-end second-line center, much younger than JT Miller. They get a little bit younger. They get some help on the defensive end, as well as a second-round pick. And for New York, Miller definitely fits the forward core age of the New York Rangers. When looking at guys like Zibanejad, Kreider, Panarin, Trocheck, they're all pretty old. They're all in their early 30s. The time is now for the New York Rangers, especially with the way Alexis Lafreniere has been playing. They traded away Capo Caco. Their window's the next 3 to 4 years. And with Hedel, there's definitely some injury risk there, so it's maybe smart to move off him. But yeah, that is my hypothetical for the New York Rangers getting JT Miller. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about these trades? Which ones are pretty good in your opinion? Which ones you think are absolute trash? Drop some trades down below and I'll let you know what I think of them. And I'll be seeing the next one. Also, yeah, you guys bullied me after I wore the emo hair. Had to get it cut immediately after. You guys are ruthless. But I'll be seeing the next one. Peace.